Rene Enriquez, a.k.a. Boxer. Thanks for pulling up the Street TV, man.
No problem, man. It's my pleasure. We've known each other for a long time, and since I was in town, I figured might as well stop by.
Yeah, I think ever since the book was published by Chris Blackford has been, he was a friend of mine for about the early 2000s, late 99, early 2000s, and I think your book was 2009, and he invited me to the book signing at Brahman's in Pasadena, and then I guess he exchanged our information in 2009.
We're at Brahman's bookstore in Pasadena, California, at Chris Blatchford's book signing on his new book called The Black Hand, which is a book about the Mexican Mafia. Through an extensive number of interviews with Boxer Enriquez, he was able to write this book, only the second book ever published about the Mexican Mafia. And we're going to see if we can get an interview with him to find out what it was like, his journey publishing this book on the Mexican Mafia. In the very beginning, how open was he to talking to you about this project of yours?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, Rene and I had been corresponding to each other for a decade, usually just a letter at Christmas time. And it all stemmed from when I did a story about him, I think it was like 95, which I'd mentioned him probably 3 or 4 times in other stories that I did. And I got a call one day from his mother, who was furious with me that I was making her son look like this horrible gangster all the time. She said if you would write him a letter, you would find that he really is into talking to youth about not getting into the gangs and picking another way of life. So I wrote him this long 2-page letter, and thinking the last thing I really needed was some mafia soldier's mother to be mad at me. And he wrote me back a long 3-page letter, handwritten. And basically the gist of it was, I don't love the way you're portraying me, but I know it's just, your job, and I have no animosity towards you, but keep the lines of communication open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's about the time. About 2008, 2009.
Oh, that's crazy, because that's 16 years ago.
Quite a bit. Time flies when you're having fun.
And this is the first time, well, really not the first time, but the first time we're face-to-face outside of the courtroom.
We're on opposite ends of the field there.
I think we were in the courtroom on 2 different cases.
Yes.
I was in the audience for Lalo, and then I worked on Grajeda.
I recall.
Yeah.
I recall seeing you.
So we have been in the same room before.
Yeah, but it's never been adversarial. I've never felt that way. I you do your job, I do my job, and we're just at different ends of the spectrum. That's all.
But I do feel like our communication was limited after one of those cases. We used to have an ongoing communication via email, phone, and then it kind of stopped after, I think, Phenom. I'm not sure if I remember that correctly.
Yeah, but there was, in my mind, I'm looking back and I'm like, I've never had any personal beef with you. I never took it personal. Like, whatever you say on stand, that's what you say. That's your job, right?
You did call me before you were released, saying that you were a little hard on me.
Little hard on me. Little hard on me. But it's the business. This isn't for the faint of heart, right?
Well, I think it's ironic to say we're a little hard on you when we were discussing your parole eligibility after being convicted of 2 murders.
Yeah, I mean, there's no easy way. There's no easy way to pretty that up. I get it. You guys are doing your job, but I think that maybe I anticipated that because we knew each other, it would be a little easier going. But no, you're a hard line, dude. You're a hard line, and as a journalist, you have to be that way. I understand that.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what I said, but maybe I'll drop a clip in right here of what I said when I was doing the podcast with FG.
There's a well-known Mexican Mafia dropout named Rene Boxer Enriquez. Mm-hmm. Chris Blatchford from Fox 11 News wrote a book about him. He was one of the top dudes, when he was doing this thing in the 80s and 90s. Mm-hmm. Then in 2002, he dropped out. And he ended up becoming an informant for the government. And he's a convicted 2-time murderer, but he's up for parole. And he's been up for parole.
Right.
But the governor always denies his release. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if a lot of people understand this. The CDC can grant your parole.
Right.
And say, we deem that you're ready to go.
Right.
But the governor has 120 days to approve it.
Right.
So just because the CDC says you can go home doesn't mean that you're going home. But usually the governor signs off on it.
Right.
But the governor hasn't been signing off on this Mexican Mafia dude named Boxer. and he's about to be he's been already paroled in January. So the state of California, or the Governor Newsom, has till the end of May. My question is, and this is just a question for everybody to ponder: should a 2-time convicted murderer who ran one of the most powerful prison gangs be released?
How long did he do?
He's been in there since 1990. So it's been like, let's say 30 years.
He did 30 years.
Yeah, he's been in there 30 years. And he killed a female named Cynthia Galvadon, and her family always sends letters to the governor, do not let this man out. But, you know, that's what families do most.
No doubt.
And so he killed a female, he killed a dude on some prison politics stuff on the streets. So 30 years later, what do you say, F?
30 years later, I say that if he took a life, you know, my whole stand on it is if you get caught, then you should do life, you know. But I also heard you say he was an informant. So that probably was part of the reason that he's getting the love that he's getting as far as the recommendations from the CDC, you know, his cooperation. So whether I agree with it or not, when I already know that when the state of California, when the government wants somebody locked up and somebody assist them in that, they'll let a dude out no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, that's the purpose for assisting the government.
No doubt.
There's a trade-off here.
It's a trade-off.
You want me to testify? This guy, Boxer, by the way, I know I've witnessed him testify in about 6 trials.
Damn.
I believe he's testified in 8 or 9. There might have been a few that I missed.
Super duper.
And get this, one time he testified in a case against my client.
Damn.
Yeah, and I'll let people know a little bit. I end up meeting him over the phone because I interviewed Chris Blatchford, who wrote the book about him.
Oh, okay.
So I did this cool little video with Chris Blatchford at a book signing, and Chris Blatchford hits me up one day and says, "Hey, Boxer just called me from prison. He said he likes the video you did." I said, "Oh, okay. Give him my number. Tell him to holler."
Right.
So he hit me up one day, and we just talking on the phone about Mexican Mafia history, because a lot of people know that I understand Crip and Blood history.
Right.
But I also study this Mexican gang history too.
Yeah.
So we talking about Mexican Mafia history, but then I realized he's heavily involved in assisting the prosecution in these trials. And then one day we're actually pitted against each other.
Yeah.
And ever since that case, I ain't never heard from him again.
Right.
Hey, I want to talk about a specific topic with you right now because I only got you for a little short period here. And I want to go straight to the hard part. The hard part is you deciding in 2002 to leave the organization, to leave Lyman, to leave the Mexican Mafia. I believe your name was in the hat at least 3 other times, and I understand that that's a stressful living for some people. There might be some guys that they just take it, you know, whatever happens. But let's talk about being in the hat 3 times and then eventually deciding to leave the organization. So let's go back to the first time where the pressure was on you within your brothers in the organization.
That was in Folsom in 1985. I remember Bevito and Kilroy, Alvarez and Kilroy Roybal, politicking on me and Shy's whole crew, right? They had already started that division between this elitist group and the nobodies in their minds, right? Or the carnales without palabra. And that was Bevito Alvarez. So I felt the pressure then early on. I'm 6 months within my membership. I knew it wasn't for me, and that this wasn't the brotherhood that I had originally had a concept of, right? So that was the first instance. The second instance.
Well, let's get to the first one. So the first one is right when you get in, shortly after your induction. Kilroy, he's a heavyweight in the organization. You must have felt a certain amount of pressure when you got a guy like Kilroy who's been there since like 1961. I'm assuming that he was a heavy shot caller still in the 80s. What was that like?
It's overwhelming. I mean, I'm a 21-year-old kid, and I'm dealing with titans in the organization. These guys have just like massive history in the mob. But I kind of like Kilroy in the inception, right? I remember going to the house with him in his cell because he lived like 2 doors adjacent from me on AA1 in Folsom 5 block. And they told me, go in the cell and make sure he doesn't OD tonight. So his cell, he went to my cell, and I went to his cell. I ended up ODing in Kilroy's cell. Rather than protecting him from ODing, I ended up ODing. And I remember waking up in the morning, getting admonished by the brothers. You were supposed to go in there and take care of him, yet you go in OD. So I got along pretty good with him. He was a clown. He was very gregarious. He was an easygoing guy until he got into the politics. That's when I started disliking him. And that's when I realized the danger of the mouth, of the spoken word in the organization, because that's where the politics started flying, personal dislikes, little animosities between brothers, and I detected that then, and it was like I was really a kid, you know, and these guys have been doing this their whole lives, so they knew how to handle it. I didn't.
Did you know, because Kilroy was released from prison in '93, so only 8 years later, and by the end of his sentence, he was already being politicked on. Did you know that his days was coming to an end, or in '85 he looked like a strong figure in the organization?
'85 he was a strong figure. Him and Bevito were like the key figures in Folsom, and they were the head political factions, and they rounded themselves with sycophants like yes men, like Bessie Sagato, Wino Grajeda, guys like that, Chino from Garrity, and they were all their yes men. And they had their little crew of individuals that agreed with everything they said and, you know, screw everybody else. And that's how they ran their crew. When in 1988, I went for a violation, we had already decided. Kilroy had been hit in Tehachapi, and I was there when we were deciding that. Gabriel Huerta stabbed him on the yard, but we had already devised, like, yeah, he's got to go. He's a politicker. He created dissension within the organization, and it was already decided. When I go back for a violation in 1988 to Palm Hall and Chino, we subpoenaed Bevito Alvarez, and we're going to kill him there. And it felt so, I mean, it sounds evil, but it felt so damn good to look in his eyes and see fear, because I was the one that was going to stab him, me and Tupi Hernandez. And we were deciding, no, I'm going to stab him first. No, I'm going to stab him first. And we just said, let's just go until they shoot. And he knew it. He knew we were going to kill him, because he got subpoenaed to court without knowledge, and there's 5 brothers there, and we're all like, yeah, let's kill this dude. First day on the yard, we get him approved for the yard. We go to Leo Duarte, the IGI, later SSU agent. We get him approved for the yard. On his way to the yard, he goes into protective custody. We have 2 massive knives on the yard, and we're going to butcher this guy. And then in another event that same time, we get subpoenaed out to court for Freddie Gonzalez's Veneno from Pomona, Mexican Mafia member, who's now the head of the 2-5, right? We go to his trial, and we're going to kill him on the bus. And we already got a device to use a garrote wire, and we have knives and keys, and we're seeing him squirm. And I tell you, after the discomfort that they made me feel in Folsom, it was really satisfying to see that on his face. Me, a 22-year-old brother, seeing a 50-year-old brother squirm. And they have a phrase in Spanish, se le volteó el barco. His boat flipped. In other words, the circumstances had changed, right? And the shoe was on the other foot. And that was when I felt accomplished. I had survived a huge campaign against 2 titans, Kilroy and Bevito, and I survived that, and I started getting my sea legs, I guess, in the mob. But that was the first campaign, and it was pretty rough for me. But ultimately, we prevailed.
What was Bevito like when you met him in '85, or maybe you met him before '85? But what was he like when you first met him?
He was a dick. I mean, there's no other way. Arrogant, elitist, better than everybody else. I didn't like him from the moment I saw him. He had this funny thing. He had light-colored eyes, but he had like a ring around the irises of his eye, and I remember that. It looked kind of like a wolf's eye, right? I remember that about him. He was salt and pepper hair, handsome guy, but he was always a dick. I never felt welcome. Like some carnales made you feel welcome, like Black Dambarella, Raymond Shryock, Weddle Squire, Raymond Garduno. Some of those brothers made you feel like you're their brother. I never felt that from Bevito.
Do you think there was a age gap, generation gap between guys like Bevito and Kilroy and young guys like you in your 20s, in early 20s at that?
Quite possibly, but my personal belief is that he did not like Weddle Shy. They had animosity going back decades.
And Weddle Shy is your older homie from Arturo.
Yeah.
From Artesia.
Yeah.
So, because anything against Huerta Shyrock is going to be against anybody else in Argentina?
Yeah.
That's how it goes, right?
Yeah, it's like they know we're voting with Shy. Me and Negro Villalba, the individual who was just killed in 2019, Mexican Mafia member, were made at the same time. And we're two homeboys of Shy's. That gives Shy 2 votes at everything he does. He knows that. I know that. Everybody knows that. You know, it's common practice, right? You vote with your crew. And Bevito knew this, so we immediately became targets for his animosity and his disdain. But I remember on one occasion, I got the Black Hand tattooed on my chest, life size. I got the pattern from the book Thinner from Richard Bachman, Stephen King. That was his pseudonym. I saw that pattern, and I had a guy named Wolfie from Arizona tattoo it on me. And I come out to the yard, and I'm rocking it. You know, I just made my bones. I'm in. I'm a full-blown carnal. And he tells me, "Why did you put that tattoo?" I said, "Because I'm a carnal." He says, "You have to earn that." And I looked at him, I says, "I did earn it when I got made." And there's all kinds of brothers walking around with Mexican Mafia on their chest and black hands. It wasn't as prevalent. The black hand was not as prevalent. After I did it, everybody did it. We're talking about Chico from Hazard. A number of brothers put the black hand, and now they're rocking it on their necks. It became a thing, right?
Your favorite brother has one of the biggest hands I've ever seen tattooed.
At Marquez?
No, Fox.
Oh, Fox. Uncle Fester. Good old Uncle Fester.
Right, he's got one almost like covering his whole pectoral, going up towards the neck.
So does Bet Marquez. He has one where the fingers actually emanate up the side of his neck, in front of his neck, and it's huge, right? Now it's just like a flamboyant tattoos. It's supposed to be a secret organization, but it's the worst kept secret in the criminal underworld.
So you knew when Bevito told you you shouldn't have got that tattoo, he was going to be a problem.
Yeah, instinctively, you get that vibe, like.
So in 1988, like as you said, it felt good. Do you take the credit? You and
Dupi Hernandez,
Dupi pretty much ran him off the yard.
Bessie Sagato, Ronald Baez from Ontario. I think Black Dan Barella was there at the time, but left. But yeah, me and Dupi, we were the primary shooters. We were going to kill him.
And was that the end of Bevito's career?
End of his career. Right then, he was done. He was a PC. He was a rat. He was no good.
Now, how did Kilroy's career end? Because it didn't quite end that way. He seems to have been released from prison without ever having the PC up, but he did lose a lot of that power in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, as soon as he got hit, he was persona non grata. He was on the list. He was open season. He was stripped of his status, what they call stripped now, right? He was no longer a carnal.
What year did that happen?
That happened in 1988, the year I paroled. I paroled in 1988 from Tehachapi. In August of 1988, happened immediately after I paroled. It was already in the mix when I was leaving.
Now, how was it that Kilroy was able to still stay on a general population prison yard and not get ran off like Bevito got?
He didn't. We were in the shoe. This was the Southern Maximum Security Complex at Tehachapi. So as soon as he got hit by Sleepy Huerta, and he didn't knock Sleepy Huerta out. None of those stories are true because I believe somebody told me that he did a documentary and he claims to have knocked out Sleepy or chased him across the yard. That is not true. He got hit, he stepped back, and then Sleepy went to the other side of the yard, and that was it. Boom, it was done. He was hit. He was done. He wasn't on an active yard. He never, ever entered an active yard for the rest of his career. He was isolated and put himself PC.
You're saying he did go to a PC yard before I thought he was paroled from Pelican Bay. Am I mistaken about that?
No, he paroled. I believe he paroled from the shoe. He was housed in protective custody for his administrative segregation, but he did not request protective custody. Kilroy never locked up.
Okay, so let's go to the second time you was in the hat.
The second time I was in the hat was the C&D facility war at Pelican Bay State Prison. This is when, about 5-10 years into the shoe at Pelican Bay, the Mexican Mafia was at war with itself. C facility was Tablas, Castellanos, Angel Valencia, Cuate Grajeda, and a few other brothers that formed up the nucleus of that clique, right?
We're coming into the security housing unit into C facility.
And on D facility, it was me, Topo, Nightowl, a couple other brothers, right? And they started putting us on the list, on the hit list. After those guys, here's what they resorted to. They started sending messages out to the streets and to the general population that if anybody messed with us or supported us, they were going to get killed. And that we were on their lista and we're going to get killed. So we knew about it. We're hearing about it from active Sureños on the mainland. These guys are plotting on us. And it became pretty intense, but it was a war where a shot was never fired. The only person hit in that was Little Mo Reese. And Lalo stabbed him in the cell.
So basically you had Tablas from Valencia and Angel Valencia politicking against you and your crew.
Yeah.
And so what was the end result of that?
I survived. They survived until I defected. That's when I made a video for Angel Valencia and encouraged them to come on over to the protective custody yard.
But you were in that had a third time before you defected, though.
Yeah, before I defected, I got into a beef with Daryl Baca, my last cellie.
But how did something like the C&D war just end? Did it just die out? Did it just, people got tired? No one knew?
It still existed. The politics still existed. But one of the things we did during the 2000 peace talks was we had the ability to go to each cell front. Myself, Danny Boy Peña, and Jaco Padilla. In 2000, remember the riot kicked off on Pelican Bay, general population, I think it was C yard or B yard, I'm not sure which yard it was. But the big riot, the historic riot jumped off. The administration gave us the opportunity to walk around the entire facility in an effort to bring about peace in the general population, because that was a huge thing to Sacramento. To the governor's office, to the director's office, and to the warden. Like having a 20-minute riot where 80 knives are found and 16 people got shot, 1 killed, is a big thing, right? Plus it was world media. So they gave us this opportunity, and during that circuit, they were going to each carnal cell front, each camarada, each NF member, each AB member, each BGF. So there were 3 members of the BGF, 3 members of the AB, 3 members of the Mexican Mafia. We all made the circuit. So we were able to solidify our lista. We talked, we went to each cell door, and we discovered that Angel Valencia and Cuate Grajeda were the cause of all the dissension within the organization. Tablas hid. He ducked his head. He dodged that bullet. He should have been put on the lista because he's a horrible politicker, right? Everybody knows it. He's never done anything for the organization. He's never killed anything for the organization. Yet he's King Farouk, right? In the organization. He has this massive amount of influence, and I don't understand where that came from.
But weren't you there to witness when the 3 brothers from Valencia, I guess they established this thing called the 3 Kings?
Yeah.
Babo, and Tablas. They yielded a lot of power. Was it because they were from Valencia?
Yeah, they control a territory that's well established, has a highly reticulated infrastructure, and it's well organized. Look, they have great managerial skills. You cannot take that from those guys. They have great organizational and managerial skills, and they hone that down to a finely tuned craft, right?
So who was the brains behind the 3 Valencia guys that were in the organization? I know Topo was in the feds most of the time.
Yeah.
And of course, the 2 brothers were always in state prison.
I think Tablas was the architect of the hood. I mean, it's his kites that went out in Operation F13. It's his communications. It's people going to see him. I evaluated both of their visits during those investigations as a communications analyst, and it was Tablas is the one that was espousing all the rhetoric. And Babo's visits were pretty mundane and plain. It was just him and his wife, and you never heard him talking about business. One of the few guys that didn't have diarrhea of the mouth, right? But Tablas was more overt, So I would say that Tablas, being the more aggressive and intellectual of the 2, was the architect of Valencia.
Now, after these C&D wars at Pelican Bay, are you ever able to establish a positive relationship with any of the guys that were on C facility, or is it pretty much done for forever, I guess?
By that time, I didn't trust anybody. It's the one thing I learned is that you got no friends in the organization. Your acquaintances. Your acquaintances that are supposed to be brothers with the power to kill each other.
Okay, so let me ask you, you have a YouTube channel right now, and I'm listening to some of your wire conversations, and some of them sound like that some of these brothers do have a camaraderie. It seems like they do have a level of love and respect for each other when they converse. Not all of them, but it just seems like they know how to converse and respect each other and have normal conversations on the phone.
I mean, it appears that way. And it appears that way in the organization. When you speak to your brother, hey brother, how you doing? How's the family? And is there anything I could do for you? But that's all a facade. Because as soon as, say, one of those guys in that conversation gets thrown in the hat, they're mother effing him all day long. Yeah, let's kill him. Let's kill him. Let's take his territory. We're going to split this up. And that's how it goes. So that superficial or cosmetic cordiality that you're seeing is just that. I mean, you don't want to expose your hand and bare your canines to somebody. You don't want to do that because then they're going to know that you have animosity towards them. So you keep that contained. Even if you have it, you don't expose your hand. So I think what you're seeing is just cosmetic. You're not going into the belly of the beast, and you're not peeling back. I mean, it's stratified, like layers of an onion, right? You peel back one layer and one layer and one layer. There are 1,000 layers. But once you get down to the very core, you can finally get the essence of the onion, right? And that's how it is with these relationships. I mean, sure, you have business partners. Sure, you're great friends. Sure, you grew up together. But as soon as the politics fly, there is no loyalty in the organization. And that's a true, real fact.
Now, did you have a closer relationship with the guys on these facilities, like Topo and the others? Would you be at least a little bit more trust for those guys?
Some, but I didn't like Topo. Topo was a horrible human being. He lied. We used to catch him in lies all the time. Like, he would go out to the visit and tell all the brothers, yeah, we voted on it, and that guy's got to go. The next week, I would go to visit, and 2 or 3 brothers would tell me, hey, did you guys vote on this guy? You guys made this decision without telling us? I said, well, what decision? Well, Topo came out here and said this and that. And he kept doing this over and over and over, just a habitual liar, right? So we got to the point where we began discussing killing Topo. Tell him that at some point, we might have to throw this guy to the hounds, you know? Because everybody was clamoring for his death. It started because Sally Soto's brother was an informant, and Topo Peters was backing him up, and that's what they used to politic on Topo. Topo's backing up rats. So we told Topo, hey, we're going to have to kill your brother-in-law, number 1, and number 2, we have to give the approval to get it done. He said, no, a carnal has to do it. Only a carnal can do it. I said, why? He's not a carnal. He's just a swinging dick like everybody else. Anybody can kill him. Why is he so special that a carnal has to kill him? First hurdle we had to go over. Second hurdle was his lying. But Alberto Lento, myself, Jaco Padilla, Daryl Baca, all of us had discussed it. Like, maybe we're going to have to deal with this guy. You know, it's going to be one of us. And it wasn't a challenge. Topo was a guy all of 4'9", 4'8". I mean, one good blow would have knocked him out. Then you could have strangled him to death. It wouldn't have been a problem.
Was there any resentment towards a brother that wasn't completely Latino or Mexican? Because Topo Peters is, I don't even think he's half Latino. He's definitely not Hispanic.
He's got some cut in him somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, let's call a spade a spade.
Did those things ever come up in conversations?
No, because their heart is Mexican, right? Okay. I mean, there have been Black Mexican Mafia members, Chanona Jordan, which I recently discovered from Mundo, Samoans, Japanese,
Puerto
Rican, Papa Roman, Puerto Rican, Samoan, Mohawk Indians. It's an eclectic mix of ethnicities. So you can't say that there's that because they're accepted for who they are, right? They've adopted the ideology, they've been immersed in the subculture, they grew up in the hood their whole life, and they're homies, right? Like you see a homie, like a Mexican from a black gang, they grew up with the homies. And everybody can say, oh, he's one of the brothers, you know? That's how it is here. So there was no animosities like that. There was in 1986, Kilroy and Bevito began calling all those brothers of mixed ethnicities the All Nations mob. They would crack on Joe and Shai and Nico and said, man, they're not even Mexicans. And they passed a short-lived rule that you had to be 100% Mexican to join the Mexican Mafia. They pushed all that elitist stuff. But that was Bevito and Kilroy who started that.
Yeah, I knew Kilroy for a fact had some sort of animosity toward Joe Morgan, but I don't really know the history of that. When you were in prison, did you ever learn about any? A lot of people did not publicly dislike Joe Morgan, but if you spoke bad about him, you got handled.
Oh yeah, you might get whacked.
Yeah.
That's why I never said anything. I was no dummy, you know. I was just a kid.
What was Kilroy history with Joe Morgan?
I never knew.
Okay.
I never knew. Like some of the stuff they never told me, and I never asked.
And did you get to cross paths with Joe Morgan? Because he died in '93, so he was in there when you were in there.
He was one of the guys that voted me in Folsom. In fact, one of my first encounters with the guys, I got tongue lashed by him. Me, David Galvadon, and Mariano Martinez, Chewy from Vietnamese. We started this thing called the Kitty, where we would collect commissary from everybody that went to the store, and we had a big supply of commissary items and cosmetics to give to guys that came in to the shoe. It wasn't for gain or anything like that. It was for everybody else. But we asked this one paisa to kick in, and he went out to the yard and told Joe we're extorting him. So Joe just took this guy's word for it, and we got to the yard. He calls us all over there with Black Dan and Shy and starts yelling at us in front of everybody. How dare you use the organization to make money and blah, 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 blah. And I hated him ever since. And I swore that as soon as Joe left, and I told the other brothers, we're killing that paisa. We're going to kill that motherfucker. You know, that dude got us yelled at. And I felt like this big. Like we were stripped of our dignity that day by Joe. And I never forgot it. I never liked him, never agreed with him, didn't feel like he was a brother.
But didn't publicly say anything about it.
Hell no, I ain't no dummy.
Okay.
Mundo said got this phrase, like Mama didn't raise no fool. I was no fool.
Yeah. All right, before we go to the third time you were in that hat, how did Topo Peters' career end? I'm assuming around the late 80s. He was already on the hit list, huh?
He was on the list. He was going to go no matter what, as soon as he got around the right people. But he developed cancer, terminal cancer. And he didn't want to be released from the hospital because he was in a weakened state. I have a document where they documented that he wanted to remain in the hospital because he would get killed if he went back. So he, without going into PC, went into PC. Topo PC'd up. A lot of people don't know that, but that's the reality of it.
Okay, so would you call it a medical PC? Or?
Medical PC. There's no one PC is PC.
Yeah.
You say you wanted protection, you're PC.
Okay, so let's talk about the third time you're in a hat, kind of unique because this is a brother from your same family.
This is my brother.
Yeah.
We grew up together, right? So we start beefing over territory caused by Jaco Padilla. Jaco Padilla tells me we want to do a business transaction in Artesia. We'll put dope in there, but you have to have money to get in. So he says, go tell Daryl that, that we're going to do it. And he's got no money, so we're going to do it, because you have to buy in, right? So me and Daryl get in a fist fight over that, right? How are you going to exclude me from business in the hood? But we got no money to buy in, bro. How do you want us to just give you what we earned? And we got in a fight, right? After that, we quash it.
In a prison cell?
In a prison cell.
Okay.
In the prison cell. They come in, pepper spray us, they separate us, and they want to move me. They move me out of the block that same day, right? And I tell them, I got to go back. There's no way you're moving me out of here. And the counselors go, they come over to me, and they say, you can't go back. We're going to separate you guys. You can't be together. I said, no, absolutely not. We're going to have problems. You are not moving me like that. There's no way. So they brought me back the same day. And they put me in an empty cell, and Daryl's in an empty cell, and we agree, okay, we quash it. We don't go out to the organization with it, because we could get killed literally for raising our hand to a brother, right? He could say I raised my hand to him. I could say he raised his hand to me, and it's going to be a political war. And I couldn't stand any more politics from that point. I was already weakened, right? Which is something I think he understood. And we agreed. There were 5 brothers. I went to all the brothers, said it's personal between me and him. Whoever won, whatever it is, we'll deal with it on our own, right? So we talk. We tell him, okay, check it out. Here's what's going to happen. Here's 5 ounces of dope, and you start your own business, right? And he says, okay, cool. And Jaco's like running around, says, I didn't do that. That was Rene's idea. And I was just like, you coward motherfucker. You coward motherfucker. And there was a previous instance where I remember being in the visiting room with Jaco. We were cellies, and Marky Quiroz, I always liked Marky. I'm in the visiting room with Jaco, we're getting chained up, and I'm talking to Carlos Diaz, who's right next to me. And I could see out of the holding tank, Jaco's talking to Marky Quiroz without saying words. And I could see Jaco going like this. And then Marky Quiroz points to me, then he goes like this. Like, whacking me's no good. So Jocko would go like that. So I go back to the cell, and it's shower time. And I said, damn, this dude's gonna whack me, you know? He just accepted that. So I go to the shower. I have a knife keistered. If for the unlearned, that's having a knife inserted in your rectum. I carried one around everywhere, and I carried a handcuff key in my mouth. So I go to the shower, unwrap my knife, I take it out, put it in my boxers with my t-shirt over. And Jocko doesn't even take a shower. He's just going from cell to cell to cell to cell, you know, during shower period, which they allowed us to do. We had free reign in our block. Cops gave us the ability to go to cells and all that. I wanted to take my knife out. So that's why I went to the shower, right? So we go back into the cell. He's very quiet, and I'm sitting up there in the top bunk, and I have my knife right here next to me. And I get up, put the knife in here before I get off the top bunk. I take a piss, give him my back. You know, it's just like, okay, if he's gonna do it, let's get it done. And it's the most nerve-wracking thing in the world. It's like, okay, I'm gonna get whacked right now. And as soon as he hits me, I'm gonna turn around and stab the heck out of him. I'm gonna stab him until he's not moving anymore. So that's weighing on me, right? And neither of us are acting normal, and we know it. And he says, hey, Rene, you got a minute? So I come down, I sit on his bunk, and
So you guys are in the same cell?
yeah, like Jocko was one of my best friends. It was my crimey on the murder with Cynthia Galvadani was never convicted, and he was my crimey on David Gallegos, the murder and he was never convicted, right? We didn't tell him nothing like that. He got away with it, and we were glad. Like, okay, you got away with it, bro. And so I knew him from the streets. He had been to my house, met my family, knew my sons, knew my parents, all that stuff. And he tells me, Rene, I have to move. I said, what do you mean you have to move? He says, yeah, I got to get some legal work done with Spani from Corona, so tomorrow I'm gonna do the cell move. And I just looked at him and said, all right, bro, do what you got to do. So it told me two things, right? Number one, he didn't have the balls to do the hit. And number two, he didn't support me. He was abandoning me.
But at the same time, he didn't follow through. If you believe he was supposed to hit you, he didn't do it.
Yeah.
So can you also look at it as he respected you, or he didn't want to see you, he didn't want to do that to you?
No.
Why not?
Because I would have been ride or die. Hey, bro, this dude just told me to hit you. Let's find out a way to kill him. That's who I would have been. Like, this dude just told me that you got to go. What the heck? Let's kill this guy. That's how I would have been. But I guess it was this false sense of loyalty that I had towards, you know, certain carnales that I felt really good about, or my friends. Those guys I consider my brothers. But I learned that that just doesn't exist in the organization.
So
You know,
you just packed up and left the cell.
packed up and left the cell. And I was left scratching my head like, what the hell did I do wrong this time? You know? Nobody told me. Nobody told me.
Did you ever find out after the fact any more details about?
It was the Cuate Angel Tablas thing. They were politicking on me. They were politicking. I mean, they were getting biters over there, you know. So they would spit their poison to some brothers, and those brothers would go spit their poison. That's how campaigns start.
Okay, so I reached out to Angel Valencia like 10 years ago, and I have a handful of letters going back and forth with him, and he always didn't have like kind words to say about you. What kind of relationship did you have with Angel Valencia back in the 80s, and why did he like you from the beginning? He told me from the beginning he didn't like you.
That is not much of a shocker, because Angel was a pretty bitter guy, right? Negative Nelly.
Actually, I think he told me he didn't even want you to be a brother.
And then he should have stopped it. He had the power to.
And I think I don't know, did you write about this in your book?
No?
Okay, I think he was a no vote. But apparently, you can't be a no vote because they want to know what your vote is ahead of time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So ahead of time, he was a no vote on you. I guess he was made before.
Oh, yeah. He was way before me.
So if I got this correct, he was a no vote on you, but whoever told him you can't be a no vote, we're all voting for Rene. So he changed his vote to a yes vote when the official vote happened.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the whole deal between you and Angel Valencia?
Don't ever know. Didn't ever know. Because he was my next door neighbor in the shoe, and he used to slide me heroin, and we'd get high together, and I think, well, here's what I got to say about that, right? First, I think it's easy to say things when the person's not present, right? And if Angel really had that much animosity towards me, he had plenty of opportunity in THU. In fact, he 812'd me in Lancaster, right? I had went out to court when I was in Lancaster. Angel ended up going there and telling the authorities not to put me back on the yard because he would not be responsible if he did something to me. In other words, he's saying, don't put him on the yard because I don't want him here, right? Now, if he really had that much animosity and he was the through and through killer that he claims to be, then he would have just killed me, right? So it's easy to say things about people, but when the opportunity presents itself, because I hear this a lot, right? And YouTube comments and other individuals creating stories, they were going to kill you. You were on the cusp of being killed, and then why didn't they kill me? I was there. I wasn't hiding. I had nowhere to go. There was only a couple of yards I could go to in the state of California because so many people declared me their enemy for that specific purpose, because they had talked shit and they knew they were going to have to face the music at some point. I wouldn't have did anything to them. I would have never raised my hand towards Angel, even though we didn't like each other much. I think the real reason that the animosity came out the way it did, where he started vocalizing it towards CDC staff, journalists, and everybody else, is because I overshadowed him. I overshadowed him. When we debriefed, I debriefed first. Then I made a video for Angel Valencia and told him, Angel, this is why you're going to get killed, bro. Your days are over. I don't care what you say. You're the hardcore guy. You're the older brother. You were in the clica before me, but I'm telling you the truth. Cuate Grajeda had wrote a letter stating we're going to kill family members during those peace talks in the 2000s, remember? And gave it to me. It says, Angel wrote this letter. He says he's going to kill your family and the families of the other brothers if we can't get to you. He says, I want the brothers to know. But Angel and Cuate started feuding, and that's why Cuate did it. I recognized the writing as Cuate's writing as soon as I saw it. I knew Cuate had authored that letter himself, but I saw it as an opportunity to eliminate Angel Valencia. So I took that letter, and I went and showed it to every carnal in the prison.
Even though that letter was a fraud.
It was a fraud.
Yeah, but you didn't present it as a fraud.
I presented it as authentic.
Yeah.
Mama didn't raise no fool.
Yeah.
I was eliminating opposition,
You
and we
used it to
did.
your benefit.
I used it to my benefit. But we also had already agreed to kill Cuate. So I'm killing two birds with one stone. So during the peace talks, when we met with Warden Ayers, Senator Hayden, Tom Hayden's chief of staff, the director of corrections, and the assistant director Brian Perry, and all the administrative staff in the room, 3AB, 3BJF, 3MM members, me and Danny Peña had knives and keys. And we told Jocko, I said, we're going to bring Angel or Cuate, and we're going to slaughter him here in front of the senator, the warden, and the director, and we're going to be world news. We want everybody to know that we eliminate our opposition. Jocko straight panicked. No, my God, you can't do that. They'll never let us out. Like, he bitched. He bitched out. And me and Danny are looking at each other and said, no, this is a chance. We may never get out of the chute. We got to kill these dudes. They're poison. They're a cancer in the organization. So Angel really was on the cusp of being killed. This isn't like me saying because I don't like him. I think he found out that we were going to kill him later on. And now it's like he doesn't like me. But he didn't take any opportunity when he had all those opportunities to kill me. And it's really easy to talk bad about people. I've never really talked bad about Angel or any other brother, right? Just not my style. You know, I think it's kind of the mark of a malignant soul to sit around and talk bad about people, right?
All right. Last thing, I want to know, how did your disagreement or conflict with Daryl Baca, how did you guys end it? Did you guys come to an understanding, or it was always left up in the air?
It was left up in the air. We were trying to get to each other. He had a knife, I had a knife. He was hiding in the shower, and I would come out and try to go to his shower. We tried to get the doors open. It was pretty tense. This is pretty tense stuff. Like, I was scared to death. But I was ready. I had a big old knife. I had a Don Joy. They were made of aluminum alloy. I made a big old knife out of that, and I was going to run him through.
By this time, you're about 30?
About 40.
Oh, you're about 40.
About 40 years old.
That means he's in his 50s?
No, he's only about 2 years older than me.
Okay.
We're about the same age.
Okay.
We're about the same age, and but I already had come to the realization that I had no more political support. Daryl was my last, you know, and I knew symbolically that my reign in the organization had come to an end.
Okay, so those are the 3 times Rene Enriquez was in the hat, and out of all these people that were involved in these 3 different times, Daryl's still active?
Daryl's still active. He's on the council.
And is Cuate still active?
Cuate's done.
He's done.
His whole family's done.
He survived that incident.
He got stabbed though.
Okay.
He got stabbed in the county jail before that.
So the only person that's still around walking Like of these 3 times he was in the hat. Oh, Tablas is still around.
Tablas still around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But most of these people, 90% of the people we just talked about
Are gone. They're dead. They're PC. They're no good. They got hit.
All right, well, that's my time for now. I hope people enjoyed this video. The 3 times Rene Enriquez was in the hat. I'm going to try to get Rene to pull up on me again. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you want me to ask him next time. Thanks for pulling up, Rene.
Peace out, folks. Glad to be here.